So Keith Patterson asked, I hunt in northwestern Pennsylvania, limited to game lands. So how should digital scouting factor into the hunting pressure for that scenario?
He said limited to game lands.
Yeah.
Oh, he hunts game lands. I was saying there's a lot of game lands. Um, Hunting pressured whitetails. Is that the question? Like with more pressure?
Yeah. So I think one of the question or part of the question might be, how do you use e-scouting to figure out pressure in your
Dude,
area?
I love that question. All right, that's a great question. Um, that's something I spent a lot of time myself with. So there's I have two types of hunting styles. I have the overlooked hunting spot style, and then I have the get back in there and get away from people hunting style. Okay, so let's go to the map layers. I'll tell you guys right now, this really makes your Onyx buggy. Okay, but they have a pretty cool one called roadless areas. All right, and where's that at? You know what? It's not. It's under hunting period. So you go to hunt. Is that it? Hold on. Hunt. Roadless areas. I already had this layered in my map area. Okay. You can pay for some of these other ones like the Boone and Crockett. I did that because I was nerding out on like, okay, where can we go? Dude, this gets me excited. All right. So all right, let's just go. Well, let's call it Northwest PA, right? Let's just go up here. So I've never been to this spot. All right. This purple shading, what Onyx does is identifies areas for you as far away from public access as they can be in that area. So if you go back over to where I'm at, part of why I love hunting this part of the country so much, there's a lot of purple. All right. You get over to here. If my buddies hear me talk about this, they'll hit me because they're real big into this area here. But you can get back, man, and you can get lost. All right. So that's a really cool, quick and dirty feature for roadless areas. If we get down to where Servicide HQ is, it's a lot more populated, right? But actually in our backyard, we have a couple pockets of game lands, and we hunt some of that, right? But we have this area here, it's all roadless, all right? Back in through here. I can tell you guys though, it does not mean that there are more animals in there. I think there's this big misconception that you got to walk in as far back as possible. And Torin can tell you one of the limiting factors you got to pay attention to is food. If you have like a wide open stand of crappy trees because they logged out and didn't leave, cover and oak trees and things like that, I mean, there's a good chance it's not holding game the way that it should. And you walk in there and you're just blowing stuff out. So that's one quick and dirty thing you can do. Okay. Another thing you can do, here we got the public or the private land information on, right? So I think this is something that's overlooked, all right, is you might get an area where it's like, oh, so-and-so doesn't let anybody hunt, or you might know that, yeah, these guys are hunters, but you might also know that these guys are hunters to only rifle hunt, or they only small game hunt. And that the back of their property, even though you could access stuff, the back of their properties sometimes really good game lands that nobody's accessing because it's private. And let's just say that this property here, this Lime Emporium Highland, right? And you wanna hunt one of these terrain features we talked about. You see this saddle this gut coming up here, right? And it comes up to this flat. Maybe you want to check out if there's anything on that point. Well, to get in there, you're gonna have to come all the way down this logging road, and then to really hop over there without disturbing much. You could just boondock through the middle of the woods, but following a logging road like that's going to be helpful. And if you guys don't realize it, that's what these little like dotted hashed lines are. A lot of times they're like a snowmobile trail system, or it's a logging road or something else. Again, boots on the ground can be really helpful for that. Okay, you can see it better when you go to the actual top of the map. But the dashed line, if there was a ledger here and there's not, but like on a topo map, a lot of times it'll tell you on the ledger what the dotted lines mean. Okay, as opposed to, let's see if there's like a county line or something, like railroad tracks or something. This trail, recreational trail. See that's a single dashed line. So these lines all mean something. All right. These little lines here, that's somebody's driveway, is what that probably is. So again, take notes. Pay attention to how you access the land. Pay attention to the terrain features. Pay attention to property lines. You know, use the Onyx though, because you can see that information. If you look at like where my camp is at, if I zoom in over here, you'll see all these lines coming out of here, right? I had to get my permission from my neighbor. Poor guy just passed away actually, but luckily he was fine with me accessing the game lands through his land, right? So I usually have my way that I go up. Now, if you see all these lines here, that doesn't hold a candle to how many times I've hiked this mountain. And this mountain does no justice to how much more I've actually not recorded my maps, because in the back of my hand I don't have to record it. But you'll see there's my name, that's my property, that's my driveway, the hashed lines. I got my own access to that. And here's where I forgot to turn Onyx off a bunch of times, walk around the cabin. But if he wasn't nice about me hunting that property, and he told all these guys, stay off my property, he's got a huge chunk, and these couple guys hold a gate to hunting a lot of this game lands back here, as do these guys. So that's one way, by talking to your neighbors and getting intel that way. Don't just do e-scouting. Talk to your local neighbors, and go to the local diner. We just found out about a nice cabin that's back in this hollow that a guy's selling. Just talking to somebody at the local sportsman's club. So, and he told us, nobody's really hunting back there, and we can come back there and access the game lands that way. So, like this right here. Now I'll give you guys another tip, and you got to be careful. You got to know the laws. But this right here, okay, this low run, there is a pipeline that goes up through here. Let's see if it shows on the hybrid. No, here you can see it. Okay, you can see that line right there. It's not marked. That is a pipeline, and a pipeline is actually public access point. So even though there's properties right here that guards off to get back in through here, you can technically access through the pipeline, and nobody can stop it. All right. So just knowing that kind of stuff is really, really helpful. Okay. What else can we talk about? So I think the big thing is, guys, and I could do an entire series talking more about picking spots, and maybe some of you guys want that information, and I can touch on that some more. But the first big step though is to know and understand what you're looking at. So that this is the top of a mountain. This is a point coming down. This is a little bit of a gully. This is a big hollow. Okay. Some of the micro stuff is what I found is really important. Did you have something, Torin? Okay.
No, what I was going to say is, since we're pushing that like 8 o'clock, 8:30 mark, it might be a good time to open the floor for open questions. There was one thing that I don't know if you want to go into it now, or if it's maybe something that we want to go into a little bit more in depth, but hunting monocultures, like hunting like areas that are basically all the exact same kind of country, whether it's big timber, whether it's swamp.
Florida.
Yeah, exactly. That exact same kind of concept.
Let's go down to Florida. We'll mix this up, guys. All right. I'll tell you what, I'll get down to where I was turkey hunting. That way Kyle doesn't get upset with any spots. But this was a draw that I had for turkeys and stuff. All right. I got really lucky. You'll see these big lines. This doesn't look that big, guys. This is freaking huge. I got to ride on the back of a side-by-side with a handicapped hunter, and I got to really see a lot of the terrain. So that's why you see this big grid. But like looking at this, guys, like let's put the topo on. And actually, before I do that, the hybrid, you don't see any lines. So put the topo on. You're down at sea level, okay? And you will see all this swampy looking stuff. All right. And that's literally what it is. This stuff, it floods. Okay. So this is where your aerial photo is going to really help. All right. If a deer wants to lay down in that swamp stuff, let him do it. Okay. I ain't going in there. I don't like cottonmouths. If you guys know me, let him do it. But for deer hunting in particular, all right, they're gonna if they're not pressured, they're gonna walk in and between this stuff. This is where it's extremely important because it's that monotone thing, like Torin said, you got to get boots on the ground and figure out like what kind of forage and stuff there is. The more you look at it, the more you start to see, okay, there's a difference in this color, even though it doesn't have that wet looking ring than this one. All right. Some of that's like palmettos and things like that. But here's a perfect example. So here's where you can see where I walked. And again, I was walking and some of this is actually paths, but some of this stuff, it's like where I'm walking and there's dry ground. Okay. And I'm zigzagging through back and forth because the terrain's so thick. So using some of these landmarks and pinch points, I wasn't deer hunting, there was a turkey roosted down here I was calling at. But using some of these features to your advantage is really important to look at. And then you got to get boots on the ground. Florida's like, that's such an extreme one, and not being a native to it, it's tough. But let's go. I don't know if I have South Carolina marked. No, that was Boone. Okay. I had hunted. The joke was we were hunting how was it? We're in South Carolina and we were hunting just north of South. Is that what it was? The town was called like South. And we're hunting just north of there. Where the heck's it at? But Carolina is another challenging one. We'll just zoom in here. So you got like peanut fields and cotton fields and stuff like that. Sometimes you get round. This isn't one, but sometimes you get round fields where they're irrigating things. But again, it's all that monotone type stuff. Okay. So here is where sometimes you want to take off that hybrid layer and look at the topo, because it's going to be blue and mark things a little bit differently. All right. And then you can see a lot more of the water features, which becomes really important now in South Carolina where it's super hot. That's an important thing for animals. So find the limiting factor. If water's limiting factor, you're in this little block here, maybe that's a watering hole that they need to hit. If food or cover's a limiting factor, maybe that's something that you want to check out. But so you can't tell that's wet there. Is that the one? Yeah. Okay. But there it shows you on there. So that'll be worth checking out. This actually looks wetter there, right? So if I zoomed in here, I'd say that this looks like this is either a peanut or a cotton field. I'll give you guys a tip. If you guys ever go down there, they eat the peanuts, but a lot of times they'll bed in this cotton over here. I think this might be the cotton's taller. Okay. And the reason is they being the farmers, spray the cotton to kill the insects. So other than your occasional rattlesnake cruising around, those deer will lay down. They got good cover. They'll lay down in there. You can't approach them, and they'll walk out and they'll eat the peanuts. All right. So that's just something that you have to pick up by talking to the locals. This block of woods right here, yeah, man, it's extremely difficult to hunt and to figure out. I was in South Carolina a couple years ago. One of the early hunts that we had on our YouTube channel, you guys can watch it if you type in Surfside, South Carolina, velvet buck hunt. And we had a lot of trouble getting into these deer. We were setting up over the fields, trying to do it with archery tackle. August 15th, it was August 20 something. It's rifle season. Don't ask me why their laws are that way, but we're trying to do it with a bow, and these deer just not coming out in the fields are getting shot at. So I ended up finding like a staging area where the deer were getting together before they came out. And the way that I did that was I started looking for sign and trails and food sources, and I found trails on the inside of the woods. Places like this, man, you got to get boots on the ground. You can get some ideas because this is some big country. It doesn't look big, but and that's the size of a house right there. That's big country, guys. Okay. So mark some features. You know, this might be a cool field if that was a food plot, and you could set up based on the wind, knowing that the deer are going to probably come from some sort of cover, right? But you need to get boots on the ground with these kind of things. These might even be pine trees actually over here, and I'm not sure if those are pines. If that was a cotton, but again, you got to get boots on the ground. So that's just a totally different type of terrain, totally different type of hunt.